It was an attack on a family that shocked the country. 5 children dead, a 6th fighting for life.
I told him that we'll always love him. We should never forget him.
The father, apparently a hero, who fought to save his kids from the flames.
Them poor gentlemen from the fire brigade saw what we've seen, you know, my heart goes out to them.
Earlier TV appearances revealed a different side.
Listen, you want to start? You start! You start! Keep back here! Keep back here! Let's do as a cow, bitch. Let's move it.
He was contemptuous of women full stop, not just his own women. He tended to refer to women as bitches.
Not everyone was surprised when Mick the hero became Mick the suspect.
The first words out of my mouth were, Mick's done this. The bastard's done this.
Michael Philpott is interested in Michael Philpott, and he'll manipulate the situation to get exactly what he wants, and it would appear not to stop anything.
Today, Mick Philpott, his wife Mairead, and best friend Paul Mosley were all convicted of the manslaughter of the children. Tonight we hear the secret police recordings which formed a key part of the case against them.
You coppers are listening, eh?
And speaking for the first time, Mairead Philpott's family reveal how they tried to get her and the children away from Mick.
We told her that we would take the kids from school. We would get her out, but she just wouldn't leave.
A mother and a father, why took the lives of 6-year children? What was it for?
With rows, death threats and suicide bids in the months before the fire, were opportunities to protect the children missed.
I think the warning signs around the welfare of the children perhaps have been there for some time. Those individuals in that house on that night, they're responsible for the death of those 6 children.
At 3:46 on the morning of the 11th of May, Derbyshire Fire Service received this 999 call.
Emergency. What address?
18 Victory Road.
The house is up on 18 Victory Road and the kids are inside.
Yeah, the children in bed.
What's your name, Phil?
Mrs. Philpott.
Mrs. Philpott. How many kids are in the house, Mrs. Philpott? Where are they?
6 of them.
Sorry?
6 of them. I can't do it. There's no noise to be chilled. There's no noise to be
Within 6 minutes, Derbyshire Fire Service was at Mick and Mairead Philpott's house at Victory Road.
They had been made aware that there were children within the house and they had to get to the first floor to try and rescue them. They located the first person in the bedroom at the top of the stairs.
Someone had deliberately started the fire at the front door.
As soon as the petrol was ignited, the thick black smoke and the heat would be going straight up the staircase. In this instance, the sides of the staircase were lined with wooden panelling, which had been varnished, making it catch fire quicker than if it was in a normal fire, meaning that the first floor gets very heavily smoke-logged and very hot very quickly.
As firefighters pulled the first of the children out, the eldest boy's godmother reached the scene.
I noticed an ambulance driver with Jade Louise in his arms running up the street. I just kept saying, please let the boys be all right. I knew Jade was gone. You could tell she was gone by the way she was. And I got to the bottom near Mick and Mairead's house, and all the boys were on the pavement.
The children were rushed to the Royal Derby Hospital, but it was too late. Mick and Mairead Philpott's 5 youngest were all dead. Mairead's sister joined her at the hospital.
She was quiet. She just looked in shock. And I just kept, she was rocking backwards and forwards, sitting on a chair saying, my babies, my babies. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say. She was a mess.
What about Mick?
Mick was just Mick. Talking to people, going on like nothing had happened.
The Philpotts' eldest son, Dwayne, was the only survivor. He was transferred to a specialist unit at Birmingham Children's Hospital, but he was critical.
So I went in to see him one last time. And it was just heartbreaking. I spoke to him, told him I loved him. I told him that to look after his brothers and sister, and that we'll always love him. We should never forget him.
Two days after the fire, Dwayne's life support was switched off. All 6 of Maria Philpott's children were now dead.
It just looked like they were asleep. And Jade looked like she'd been playing in the mud. But they just looked so peaceful. It was so hard. I knew they couldn't ever be hurt again. They were in a better place.
On the 22nd of June 2012, a city turned out to pay its respects. The priest who'd christened some of the children would conduct their funeral service.
This is for real now, this is the reality. So I have to say that did draw a tear. So that was a sad one.
In the arms of the angel, fly away from here.
Dwayne's school, St. Benedict's, was chosen to perform at the funerals.
Jaden lived life to the full. He was a whirlwind of fun, laughter. Jesse was a pleasure to have in school. He would arrive in class with a great big smile on his face.
Though shy, Jack was nevertheless a delightful boy with many friends. John, who came to school every day with a big smile on his face and looked forward to playing football. Jade was everybody's friend and a very popular girl in our school.
At the primary school, the pupils made tributes to their 5 dead friends.
The most difficult part is the loss of the children. They were in every class, and you miss them. They were delightful children, every one of them, well-mannered. They loved coming to school, and we loved having them here.
Dwayne was a gentle, thoughtful boy, and all of us will always feel privileged to have known him.
At the secondary school, Dwayne's friends wrote messages to their former classmate.
Dwayne, you will never have been forgotten. You wouldn't believe how many people come to the chapel. I wish you the best time in heaven with your siblings. Words will never say how much we deeply miss you.
Well, I know they're in the arm of the angels and that now. Sometimes it's alright, sometimes I get upset about it. I don't like playing it, even though you're here, I feel like I'm on my own playing it. A bit puffy-eyed about it.
But there were two people missing from the children's funeral, their parents. Mick and Maria Philpott were in prison, accused of starting the fire that killed them.
All I thought about was the kids. I felt they didn't have a right to be thought about. Because there was a reason they weren't there. So I didn't think about them.
I'd seen the coffins in front of me, the 6 white coffins, and I just kept saying to myself, no, they haven't done it, no, they haven't done it. Somebody else has done this. They wouldn't do that to their children.
The arson attack at Victory Road was reported around the world. Mick and Maria Philpott came to public attention long before the fire, and in the immediate aftermath, many thought that their notoriety might have been the motive for the arson. The story of this serial father, who had produced 17 children while living on benefits, had long fascinated the media. Mick had 6 children from previous relationships. He now lived with his wife Maria and their 6 children, and his mistress Lisa and their 5. There was no doubt how the family was viewed.
Hello, I'm Anne.
Hello, Anne. I'm Mick. Pleased to meet you.
Very pleased to meet you too. Yeah.
Mick didn't work, and his family was getting £25,000 a year in benefits. He was demanding Derby City Council provide them with a bigger house. Their lifestyle was the subject of an ITV documentary.
Oh, there's more. Much more. A souped-up sports car, plus an expensive 4x4, a brand new kitchen, a widescreen television, and stereo equipment for karaoke. So, Mick, how are you doing it?
I've got a dog, that I breed, which brings a lovely income in.
I think there's no doubt that he deserved the title Shameless Mick. He had no scruple at all about living on benefits. He was content to let the state keep him.
Anne Widdicombe persuaded local employers to give Mick a go, but he didn't seem so keen when there wasn't a camera around. Once they'd gone, Mick failed to turn up, so all job offers were withdrawn.
He actually did not want to work, and that was his motive. He wanted to live the life of Riley on no work. Well, wouldn't we all like it?
No, I don't at the moment, but I will be.
And she found that while he enjoyed all the attention, Mick wasn't so keen on being told what to do.
I'd like the public to know what an interfering old battle axe you really are.
Mick Philpott had married Maria Duffy in 2003. He was 46 and she was 22. It wasn't an entirely conventional ceremony. The bridesmaid was 19-year-old Lisa Willis, already Mick's mistress. Because of the fire, a court order means we can't show her face. The other bridesmaid that day was worried about Maria marrying a man with a mistress.
And they'd say, why would you want Lisa in your house? And she just went, that's what she ever did. And then I just said to her, if this is the way you want to live, I'm not going to judge you.
We could say things to her like, it's a bit weird, and if that was my husband, I'd throw him out. But she just never ever seemed bothered about it.
Maria's choice in man had always worried her father Jimmy. While still a teenager, one boyfriend shaved all her hair off.
She seemed to have a bad choice of men, and once you got with that man, whatever he said goes kind of thing, because she was with one bloke and she had blonde hair, longest blonde hair at the time, and he told her he didn't like it and he shaved her whole head off.
Maria told people she'd been pinned to the floor during the assault, but seemed oddly accepting of the brutality when telling a family friend.
When I seen her with her head shaved, and I said to her, "What'd you get that done for?" She said, "I didn't, he did." So that's it, you know what I mean? And then she went straight from that fella straight to Mick.
This unconventional marriage brought the Philpott family to the attention of Jeremy Kyle's show on ITV.
7 years.
Mick became hostile when talking about press criticism of his family.
Listen, you want to start? You start! You start! Tupac Ken! Tupac Ken! You
And it put Mairead in the spotlight.
Welcome to the show, Mairead. How, in your mind, this whole house thing works?
Works like a normal family. Well, there's three of us in the house, but it works like a normal family works.
You would understand.
Mick's control of Mairead is evident.
Lisa was your bridesmaid at your wedding!
Right, you just tell him what we said.
So you told her what to say as well?
I'll tell you.
For months now, people were saying, "Oh, your daughter looked a right twat on the Jeremy Kyle show," sitting there like that there, and when he nodded her head, blah, 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 blah. A few words were come out, and then if we shut your mouth again kind of thing, you know, you're only going to say so much.
Let's get Lisa. Lisa's on the show, ladies and gentlemen.
I just think she looked like an idiot. Her and Lisa, they just seemed to make fools of themselves. They didn't really speak. It was just Mick made them look like idiots, fools.
Do you not get slightly peeved that she is Mrs. Mick?
No.
And you're Mistress Mick?
No.
I'm being serious.
No, I don't. It don't bother me one bit. Why would you describe Mick Philpott?
You might not be able to say it and tell you. An asshole, a control freak, a poser, a womanizer, and that's about it. He's just all of them. He thinks he's God's gift to women.
The Philpotts' notoriety meant that when Mick asked for a press conference 5 days after the fire, all eyes would be on them.
Them poor gentlemen from the fire brigade who saw what we've seen, you know, my heart goes out to them, because it's not just us that suffered, it's them as well, it's everybody.
To the world, they were victims of a deadly arson attack.
Excuse me a minute.
But distraught relatives were surprised by what they saw.
We sat there and we saying, "Well, look, he's not even crying. He's took a tissue out to his face. It's crocodile tears. He hasn't even mentioned, 'Please help me find who killed my babies.'"
The four firemen, the police, the ambulances, the doctors, the nurses, literally everybody trying to help save our children if we could.
We asked a leading investigative psychologist to analyse extracts from the press conference.
He seems to act out particular types of emotions in rather chunky bits. He weeps a bit, and then he's sort of up and thanking everybody. Then he weeps a bit, and he looks to his wife at some point. There's a little exchange of eye contact, as if to say, "We're doing it right. This is what we've agreed to do," as well as trying to maintain the position he's trying to present of himself as a tremendous, terrible victim.
With the press conference underway, so too was one of the biggest murder investigations Derbyshire Police has ever mounted.
I've actually been down to our home, and what we saw, we just cannot believe it.
No one was beyond suspicion, not even the grieving parents. Mick's press conference backfired.
I thought it was a performance, yes, and I think that the photograph that was taken of me giving a sideways glance at both of them, but particularly to Mick Philpott, I think, speaks volumes for the thoughts that were perhaps going through my head at the time. I thought it was a sham. When people are completely and utterly innocent, they are in the depths of despair when a family member's been murdered, and that's the lowest point in their life. And I've seen people cry properly, collapse properly, and I didn't see any evidence of that at that press conference.
The police weren't just watching Mick and Maria Philpott, they were also listening to their private conversations. A police team had planted a bug in the couple's hotel room in Derby, where they'd been staying since the fire.
We weren't happy with some of the explanations that we got, and I thought it was necessary that we use that tactic, and it's only reserved for the most serious of cases.
In the hours after the fire, police had taken the Philpotts' clothes for forensic analysis, which might be why Mick seemed to suspect he could be under investigation.
You fucking coppers are listening, eh?
Mick also knew the police would want to interview them both about what happened. Fearing they might be bugged, the couple whisper.
Know something? They've got nothing on me. Nothing. A few discrepancies. That's all it is.
After 19 days of round-the-clock surveillance, police investigators were convinced the Philpotts had set fire to their own home and that Mick's best friend, Paul Mosley, had helped.
I think the three of them somehow have done it together, and it's evident that he was in some sort of sexual relationship with the two of them as well.
All three were arrested. The Duffy family were already mourning the loss of the 6 children. The accusation that Maria may have killed them made it almost unbearable.
It's wrecking me inside, wrecking me. I bottle a lot up away from my kids and that there. They don't know half of it. I mean, I don't eat properly, I don't sleep properly. Some nights I sit for hours in the dark.
But the pain for this family was only just beginning, because Maria's defence would open up a very difficult part of her and her father's history. The couple's arrest on suspicion of murder surprised some of those who knew the family.
The peace of the Lord be with you always. Do this in memory of me. I was shocked that they'd been charged with 6 counts of murder because of seeing how well they cared for them, and was a proud dad with his children and happy with them.
But the Duffy family had seen behind the public image Mick created around his family.
As far as the kids were concerned, it was Mairead and Lisa that looks after the kids and done everything. From what we've seen and heard, it was Mairead and Lisa that brought the kids up and looks after the children. He was either out and about or watching telly.
Did Mick's obvious enjoyment of his notoriety as head of an ever-expanding family indicate a more disturbing motivation?
He created this image of himself as this great father figure. It's part of his own mythology. He began to find that children could become part of his possessions, part of what defined himself as this great individual who had this team of people around him. And so the children were just pawns in his game, just objects that he could show off to the world.
The odd family setup had been widely known for years, so were there any concerns over the welfare of the children?
We can only go on what we've seen on the television and the living arrangements. Most people might say, well, how could someone live in that sort of situation with so many children and nothing happen, no questions be asked? It's not for the school to ask those questions unless there were any hints in the way that Dwayne presented that gave us cause for concern. But he wasn't a child protection case as far as we were concerned.
Is it too simplistic to think 11 children in 3 bedrooms? That couldn't have been a good environment for children to live in.
I don't think it is a simplistic view to take on that, no. I have a very personal view on that. And in terms of all of those children living at that address, then it must have been pretty cramped, irrespective of the sleeping arrangements for the adults. Was it a great environment to bring children up? No.
The couple were now in remand, awaiting trial, but the secret police recordings continued. Detectives arranged for Mick and Maria to sit together in a prison van before their first court appearance, and although virtually inaudible, the police believe the surveillance provided critical evidence of their attempt to cover up their involvement in the fire.
I think the significance for me, first of all, is that every time he mentions sticking to the story, he says it in a whisper. Bear in mind, there's 2 of them in a van, there's no need to whisper at all. But they'd spent 2 days in custody, and I think he was concerned that she'd perhaps wavered or said things she shouldn't have said. So within seconds of her getting into the van, he sought that reassurance from her.
It shows a degree of collusion between the two, and Mick Philpott was wanting to make sure that Mairead was sticking to the story. I think that's quite obvious to everybody. And I think that shows the degree of control that he's had over her.
Despite questioning Mick's best friend, Paul Mosley, for 24 hours, police didn't have enough evidence to charge him. Freed on bail, Mosley reportedly started telling friends and relatives what had really happened that night. A witness said that Paul Mosley had bragged about a plan for the fire and that a rehearsal had taken place 6 weeks before the children died. Mick and Mick Philpott were to run out and scream for help. Paul Mosley was to rescue the children from the back bedroom. 6 months after the fire, a breakthrough for police. Forensic tests reveal a potential link between the fire and Paul Mosley.
And we got the results back of the petrol on his clothing, which matched the petrol on Michael's clothing and Mairead's clothing.
Police believed they now had hard evidence connecting them to the crime. Paul Mosley was rearrested and charged. Detectives thought the fire was a botched plan that had gone disastrously wrong. They didn't think anybody meant the children to die. So the Philpotts and Paul Mosley were finally charged with manslaughter rather than murder. Police were convinced they'd caught the arsonists, and as they investigated the family further, they uncovered Mick Philpott's darker side.
I'm old-fashioned, I believe the man should be at work, but unfortunately, because the media keeps putting a certain story in the paper, I cannot get a job.
You can't get a job because of what?
Criminal record.
Mick was outspoken on national TV about why he couldn't work, but he was unusually reserved about the details of his conviction, and no wonder. In June 1978, Mick Philpott's 17-year-old girlfriend, Kim Hill, ended their relationship. His reaction? He broke into her house and attacked her. He stabbed her repeatedly as she lay screaming in bed. Her mother heard and ran to help, and he stabbed her too. Kim Hill nearly died twice in hospital. At his trial, the judge branded Philpott a dangerous young man who'd been driven by jealousy.
That anger comes out of a feeling of great insult and frustration to his pride, to what he thought of himself. And it's an indication of an individual who really believed that he was the power, he was in charge, he had to be obeyed and accepted.
Just 21, Mick Philpott was a convicted attempted murderer. By 1994, he was out of prison and married with 3 children. But that didn't stop him targeting another teenage girl. Heather Keogh first met Philpott when she was just 14. He was in his late 30s. She says she started having sex with Philpott about a year later. At 16, Heather ran away with him, but on becoming pregnant, wanted to go home. She says it was then he revealed his violent side. Heather Keogh said Philpott just flipped. He pinned her to the ground and said she wasn't going anywhere. He put the fear of God into her. She says she didn't feel she had any options. He knew what to say to make her feel special, she said, but was violent if he didn't get his way. When the relationship between Heather Keogh and Mick Philpott broke down, he was determined to take their 2 children.
What we know about his previous relationship is that he has tried on previous occasions to use tricks and use lies to get his children back. So with his relationship with Heather Keogh, he made stories up to social services, or would have appeared to have made stories up to social services in order to get the children back.
12 years on, that kind of behaviour would be repeated, this time with fatal consequences.
Michael Philpott is interested in Michael Philpott, and he'll manipulate the situation to get exactly what he wants, and it would appear not to stop at anything.
In 2007, on Anne Widdecombe's programme, while not actually violent, Mick couldn't hide his attitude to women.
You're a coward.
Let's do as a coward, bitch. Let's move it.
He was contemptuous of women full stop, not just his own women. He tended to refer to women as bitches. To their face, he'd say, right, bitch. He talked about servicing them instead of making love. He was completely dismissive of women as a breed.
As the ITV programme showed, Mick even controlled when they had sex with him.
I mean, I'll sleep in here all the time, and the girls take it in turns in here with me. I'll have one night, one another night.
Mick, Mairead and Paul Mosley were also involved in dogging. Sex in public while strangers watch. Even visitors were viewed as fair game. When Jean Wallace stayed over one night at Victory Road, she was summoned to Mick by Mairead.
She took me to Mick where Mick was in the caravan, and Mick asked me if I wanted to sleep in there with him, and I said no. And I looked at Mairead and she said it was okay, but I just didn't think it was right, and then just went out. I walked out of the caravan and just went on the sofa.
Mick's women had very little freedom. He wasn't working, but expected Mairead and Lisa to pay their wages and all their child benefit into his bank account. But 3 months before the fire, he started to lose control. In February last year, Lisa Willis told Mick Philpott that she was taking their 5 children swimming. Instead, she ran away. Her escape was the start of a sequence of events that would end with the setting of the fire.
Lisa struck me as, of the 2, the far more uncritically just accepting anything. She was an add-on extra, producing a baby every year. And when I heard that she'd walked out, I must admit I cheered, because I didn't think that she had it in her.
By now, Lisa and her 5 children were in a safe house. She gave Mairead's sister a chilling warning.
She was the only person that could tell me if my sister was safe. And she said no. You know, I can only advise you to get Mairead out of there.
Just a day after Lisa left, Mick took an overdose in an apparent suicide bid. Just over a week later, Mairead too tried to take her own life.
Mairead felt that because Mick preferred Lisa, there was no reason for her to be there. So she thought that if she commits suicide, Lisa would come back with the children, and then her children would be happy, and Mick would be happy.
After meeting Mick when Dwayne was still a toddler, Mairead saw much less of her family. But after her suicide bid, they rallied round. When visiting Dwayne, now 13, it was clear life in Victory Road was falling apart.
Just an unhappy little boy. And it wasn't there. Mick said he hadn't eaten for a week. And I took him and my little boy and my ex-partner, we all went out for pizza and stuff. You know, I'd never seen a child eat so fast before in my life. I didn't want to send him home.
So were authorities aware of concerns about the children's welfare? We asked the Royal Derby Hospital if they'd told any agencies about Mairead's suicide attempt. Both they and social services said they couldn't comment because of an ongoing serious case review, but we have learnt that at least one of the children's schools was not told. Were police made aware of those suicide attempts?
I'm not fully aware as to whether the police were made aware of those suicide attempts.
Would you have expected to be made aware of them?
I think it depends on the circumstances. Ordinarily, if I'm having this frank conversation with you now, then I would have thought that we would have been made aware, yes. And I would have expected that to happen.
Mairead's family became so concerned in the weeks before the fire, they tried to take action themselves.
Me and my younger sister were determined to get her out. We would try and get round there when he was doing the school run, because we knew that he wouldn't be in the house.
He used to be there within seconds of us getting there. It's like, he's got someone watching. That's what it seemed like.
We told her that we would go to the school. We could go now, go and take the kids from school. We would get her out, but she just wouldn't leave.
With Lisa gone, Mick launched a bid to win custody of her 5 children and bring them back to Victory Road. The battle lines were now drawn. Mick called the police, claiming Lisa was threatening to kill him, while she got a court order to keep him away from her. Twice, the police went to Victory Road. Do you accept warning signs were there that the welfare of these children were at risk?
No, I don't. I don't accept that the children were at risk. I think there is an ongoing domestic dispute between Mick Philpott and Lisa Willis, where the two of them are going head to head. And actually, it's Mick Philpott's driving a lot of this. He's the one that's actually not getting what he wanted out of this, and he's resorting to rather childish behaviour.
With the family court hearing to decide who'd get custody of Lisa's children now imminent, investigators believe Mick devised a high-risk plan to paint himself in a good light.
I think he believed when he went to court on the 11th of May he would go, having rescued his children from a fire that night, and probably claim that Lisa was responsible and get the other 5 children back.
The night before the hearing, Mick Philpott went on Facebook.
The last thing he said on his Facebook was, tomorrow's going to be my day. I love my kids, I give my life for my kids, and tomorrow's going to be my day.
I'm spastic, but I just can't get in. Right, okay. So we have got police officers round the front. Okay, yeah.
In the hours before his custody fight to get Lisa's children, Mick lost his entire family with Mairead. Immediately, he gave police a suspect, claiming Lisa must have gone through with her threats to try to kill him. When the police arrested Lisa, Mick saw it as his opportunity to get the children back.
I said to him, at the end of the day, Mick, somebody's just murdered your children. So somebody's after you. He agreed, yes. So I said, in all honesty, do you not think the kids are safer where they are with Lisa? And he said, no. They'll be a lot better off with me.
Despite Mick's claims, the police could find no evidence to connect Lisa to the crime and thought he may have planned the fire to frame her.
One thing I'm certainly been highly suspicious of is the timing of this fire on the 11th of May, because obviously that was the date of the family court trial and those issues there. So I think that the coincidence of that is very difficult to try and get your head around. I think that was a direct attempt by Mick Philpott to frame Lisa Willis, but it didn't take an awful lot of investigative work to get to the bottom of that.
With Lisa cleared, Mick tried to implicate his neighbours on Victory Road. As Mick Philpott was pointing the finger of blame at those around him, the couple's own behaviour was beginning to raise suspicion. As 13-year-old Dwayne lay dying, relatives at his bedside were horrified by Mick and Mairead's behaviour. Why do you think your sister did not sit with her dying child?
I don't know. I don't know. My mum and my sister sat with him on the Friday night for 3.5 hours, and Mick and Mairead never entered the room once.
Do you know what they were doing at that stage?
Discussing where to order Chinese. And complaining that the hospital was crap. And they were complaining that the hospital had not provided them with food, just a room to sleep.
The family ate in a room below intensive care provided by the hospital. A friend was shocked by what happened next.
Well, it was, they'd all sit quiet, and then all of a sudden they'd all start like have a food fight, and I was like, how can you have a food fight? You've just lost 6 kids.
How did it start?
So it was Mick actually for a chip over at somebody. And I was just sitting there thinking, no, this is not right.
And did everybody else join in?
Yeah.
Mick's obsession with sex didn't seem to be affected by the death of his children.
He slapped a lady on the backside and asked her to go in a room for sex. And she just laughed with him. Didn't know. We didn't know what to do, what to say.
He would just come out with rude jokes. In general, to women. It just seemed odd that he would do it at that time. Disgusting.
Even in the mortuary, viewing the bodies of his 6 young children, Mick's behaviour was causing concern.
He had apparently fainted. So I just went to his aid and called his name several times, to which he didn't respond. So I asked a member of staff just to go to get some water. He came back very quickly, and I called his name again. He still didn't respond, and then I instructed a member of staff to call a doctor for assistance. And as soon as I'd said that, he woke up, recovered very, very quickly. I wasn't convinced that it was a genuine faint.
On Mick's next visit to view his children's bodies, his behaviour was even more surprising.
He was laughing and was quite light-hearted. He then sort of reached up and got the police officer in a headlock, and was laughing and joking.
His behaviour in the hospital could be interpreted as embarrassment and shock and trauma and his way of reacting to it. But when we look at his whole background and history, what it would suggest is that really it did reveal the truth about his lack of any real empathy or feeling for the people around him. They were just objects to be used as part of this mythology he'd created for himself.
And Mick's strange, upbeat behaviour didn't stop there. A few days after the fire, Mick and Maria turned up at a private function in the Navigation pub in Derby. Both were wearing Stetsons. A partygoer started singing Suspicious Minds on the karaoke machine.
Well, as he started singing, I'm caught in a trap, Mick covered his ears and said, no, can't have this. So I turned to the young lad that's singing and asked him to stop singing because of the song he's singing and because the kid's been caught in that fire in the trap. And as I turned to say that, Mick has come running past me and grabbed another mate and started singing and caught in a trap. When he finished the song, I said to him, Mick, you better get a taxi or wherever you're with and go, because people aren't happy with you here.
While money was being raised for the family, they were out on shopping trips.
I was getting phone calls every day of people saying they'd seen them in town, they're out shopping. And from that moment on, I didn't want to see them anymore. I didn't want anything to do with them because of the lack of respect they've shown for the kids. It was disgusting.
The police were also recording some of the Philpotts' unusual behaviour. Listening in, as Paul Mosley, the third suspect, visited the couple at the hotel, they heard him attempt to discuss the fire. Mick stopped him. And while there, Mick asked Maria to perform oral sex on Paul Mosley. The police believed it was to keep him on side. Afterwards, Mick praised his wife.
You just wouldn't imagine people to be thinking of doing anything like that. Having sex, anything. She'd just lost all of her children. They were all gone. I couldn't imagine getting up in the morning. I don't understand it.
The trial at Nottingham Crown Court started in February. It took the prosecution 4.5 weeks to lay out its case against the 3 defendants. But when it came to Mairead's defence, there was a bombshell for the Duffy family. She would attempt to portray herself as a victim of the men in her life, all apart from Mick, who she described as her guardian angel. Mairead claimed in court that her father, Jimmy Duffy, abused her as the child. You're adamant that you did not abuse your daughter?
100%. 100%. I'm not that type of person. I love my kids to bits. I mean to bits. I wouldn't do anything to hurt any of them. I wouldn't hurt a hair in their head.
Mairead had originally made this claim years earlier. Police investigated at the time and found no evidence to support it.
You're convinced that your father is innocent of these allegations?
I'm not convinced I know he's innocent of these things. Definitely. 100%.
It's a devastating allegation, and not her only one. A holiday rape she outlined to the jury was also branded a lie by her sister, who was with her.
To be honest with you, I think it's just one of the many lies she tells. She's lied and said she was raped before. And she wasn't. She got caught sleeping with a married man for money. And she said she was raped. Not only has she played a part in her children's death, it just seems that she will do anything to get out of it.
Maria's father says he'll not abandon her, no matter what she said or done.
She's my daughter. I couldn't give up on her. You can't give up on your own flesh and blood. I can't. I'm not that shape.
In court, the prosecution challenged all of Maria's claims to be a victim, saying analysis of her 999 call proved her version of events was a lie, making her a willing conspirator in the fire that killed all of her children.
Where are you phoning from now? You're in the back garden.
While making the call, Maria said she got dressed, gone into the snooker room at the back of the house, found a wrench, and then gone outside and handed it to Mick, who was up a ladder at the children's bedroom window, all while still talking to the operator.
There's nothing to support her doing this. It's very, very quiet. She's not out of breath. She's not shuffling through anything. Bear in mind, she's also claiming to climb a ladder with a phone in one hand and a wrench in another and get halfway up, which would be very, very difficult. Even getting dressed with a phone in your hand would be difficult.
Investigators believe the couple initially just watched as the fire took hold, but then everything changed.
Something's happened in that call that makes them more panicked and more frightened, and I believe that's because they can't get back into the children. The plan's gone wrong and they realise just how serious the consequences are of what's happened.
It's in the front of the house somewhere. Can you get any flames there?
I think she's gone along with it. I think she's played an active role in it. If you're the mother of the children that have died in this fire, at what point are you going to actually wake up? Are you going to stick with the guy then that's perhaps not been treating you very well? Or are you actually going to cross over onto the right side and do the right thing by your kids? How big a wake-up call do you need?
Experts who investigated the fire believe the children's deaths were almost inevitable.
The moment that petrol was ignited at the base of that staircase, nobody is going up that staircase. The UPVC door is plastic, that's going to contribute a lot of smoke. Your carpet is man-made, that's going to put a lot more toxic fumes into the scenario.
The 6 sleeping children stood little chance.
The fact that all 3 doors were open means that all 3 rooms would have filled up with smoke very quickly.
Police believe conversations caught on the surveillance tapes confirm the Philpotts had been overwhelmed by the ferocity of the fire.
Keep doing it over and over and over and over again. Why couldn't I get into business? Why couldn't I get my kids out? Why just put the fire spread so fucking quick?
While Maria struggled to explain the evidence against her, Mick, ever the showman, spent 3.5 days in the witness box trying to convince the jury of his innocence.
He was prepared to take risks, but he lived in a world where he could get away with anything. He had these 2 women, he'd been on television, he'd been involved, he was a bit of a sort of local celebrity almost, and he probably had a great confidence that he could get away with all sorts of things.
The petrol on his clothes, Mick said, could be simply explained. He'd handled a petrol strimmer some days before, and in any event, hadn't changed his clothes for weeks. The covert recordings of him telling Maria to stick to the story, he said referred to his wish to keep their strange sexual triangle with Paul Mosley secret. The jury didn't believe him. Today he, Maria and Paul Mosley were found guilty of the manslaughter of the 6 children. The court case over their deaths has left all the agencies involved with the family asking themselves if they could have done anything more to prevent the tragedy. A serious case review is now underway by local social services.
I'm confident we did enough to safeguard them. I don't think you could have predicted this fire taking place. And if your question is very much, could we have done something to save these 6 children in this fire, then no, I don't believe that to be the case. I think this is the evil act of one or all 3 of them that have resulted in the death of these children.
Almost a year on from the fire, former friends reflect on how Philpott deceived them. Michael Garland was asked by Mick to drink a toast with him, a toast to his dead children.
And how do you feel now?
Shit. I still went man and killed his kids in total. I didn't know he'd kill his kids at the time, obviously, but I feel bad.
Mick and Maria Philpott, along with Paul Mosley, are now back in prison awaiting sentence. Maria's family can't understand why they gambled with the children's lives.
Why have you done it? Why? A mother and a father, why take the lives of 6-year children? What was it for? What was it to achieve? Was it publicity? Was it money off the papers? Was it to help get his kids custody of his other kids?
As soon as that thought even came into anyone's